just in case. So for the rest of the school year, we are going to be doing visual journals or altered books. I did reach out to the library and I do have books for us to use, but we won't do the entire altered book process. So if at some point you want to use like book pages, that would be available to you. Or you can just like go to like True North. I know they have a lot of like old books, like that kind of stuff, and you can use those too. So I do have a rubric for the visual journals, which I'll go through when I'm done doing everything. And I also have a Pinterest page that has a lot of examples of different visual journals. So what is visual journaling? They're a way of expressing your thoughts, feelings, and important information through text and images. This can be communicated with a combination of doodles, sketches, and just words or thoughts. Visual journal is a new form of self-expression. I see it as your guys' generation of like scrapbooking. That's what I closely related it to. So altered books are closely related to visual journals, except instead of being in a sketchbook, it's done in an old book. So an altered book is creating art on an already printed surface. The books are altered by either working alongside the words and images or covering them up in some way, shape, or form. Mediums often include stamping, embroidery, paint, and colored pencil. And if you click on here, it's a whole article on how to alter a book. So in altered books, there are usually some underlying themes. So I did list those out for you. When you're doing your visual journals, I'd like at least one theme represented on each page. And these are just some examples to get you started, but you don't need to go from these. So some are like art movements. So those are like all the art history stuff we did, or feelings and emotions, inspire, like being inspired, hope, help, growth, agony, acceptance, calm, disgust, anxiety. It's a lot of things can be portrayed on a page. Or you can go the elements or principles of art. You can do just random stuff. So if your theme could be like a daydream, a stream of consciousness, some ideas for later. It could go off of facts, it could go off of jokes or comics, or it can be a play on words. You could go for bigger ideas, which are like community, family, spirituality, culture, nostalgia, social issues, or like zodiac signs. I see those as like larger things that you could stem off of and then go more into. Or you can just go off of everyday things that you might learn about. So like zoology, so you could do stuff on animals. You can do space, ocean, botanical, cells or molecules, history, biology, general nature, or character development, or even weather. So those are just a few themes, but if you think of something else, go for it. I just want it to kind of make sense as a whole on the page. So like everything on the page, if you do like a daydream, it would relate to a daydream. Everything on the page would relate to like space or the ocean or whatever theme you choose. So how are you going to do it? There are a lot of different ways. You can do mixed media, post-it note alteration, embroidery, use an X-Acto knife, gesso, nature collage, paper collage, fabric collage, or found object collage. So I'll be going into those a little bit deeper, but what will you be doing? You'll be completing at least 7 pages. I would like you to average about 2 or 3 pages a week. Each page will have at least one theme and one method shown. Throughout your pages, you'll need 4 different themes represented. So like I said, each page should have an overall theme, have at least 4 different ones. So you can do like hope on a page, you can do zoology, you can do ocean, you can do another one. And then if you want to repeat those themes, you can repeat them, but just have 4 different ones. And then have at least 3 different methods of creating on the page. So you can do collage, you can do embroidery, you can do mixed media. But if you really like collage, you can do more after that. So they can be repeated throughout the total pages as well. So this will work as if you complete a page, or if you complete all 7 pages, just keep making more, and then you'll pick some for me to grade. So it'll be like, I'll grade 2 every week based off of that rubric, and that's how we'll go from there. So mixed media, I feel like you're more familiar with that. It's using the different art supplies and just throwing them onto a surface. So you can use anything that you have with you if you're virtual, or if you're in the art room, you can use anything that I have in here. And that would just be using more than one medium at a time. So are you using ink and watercolor? Are you using acrylic and watercolor? Are you using collage and like just a bunch of different ones? Post-it note alteration. I feel like this has the coolest effect to it. So it's usually applied to a book or page with an illustration drawn on top of it. It can be continued onto the page, or you can change the style as you go onto the page, or you can color it differently, or each different thing can have its own element to it. I feel like this one looks the coolest out of all of them, and I do have a lot of post-it notes in here. So that is a great option for you to choose from. Embroidery. Embroidery is applying different stitches to the page that either interact with an object or they're a standalone feature. So say that you found like a picture of a guy in the National Geographic. If you wanted to, you could embroider like a hat on top of them. You can embroider like a monocle. You can edit the image that way using stitching. And it just applies a different effect to it. So it makes it more 3D and interactive that way. An X-Acto knife. So this would be like cutting through the page to interact differently. So you can add layers to a page, just like the images I have on here. So it's like they have an octopus on one page and then below they dug more into like a coral reef and then they have like a mermaid in the background, and they created that by adding layers by cutting out certain things. Gesso, I do have gesso here. So if you use gesso, it's like you apply it down onto a page, you can cover up an image, and then once it's dried, you can use like colored pencil, you can use ink markers. I think you can use like Posca pens on top of it, and it will cover up the image completely. So it's basically just blacks out the image below it, kind of like white paint would, and then you can layer on top of it. So then nature or found objects, at some point in time, I do want to go outside and like, because it's getting nicer outside and I'm getting antsy too. So this is where like a found object would come into play. So you could use like pressed flowers, you can use leaves, you can use grass, or you can just use anything that you found around your house. So it doesn't need to like make sense. You can just like glue buttons into your page if you want to and make an entire page of buttons. Or you can use stamps, or you can use beads, or you can use basically whatever you find. So then the most common one is paper collage. So I have National Geographics here, but you can also use old books. I have sheet music. You can use just random paper. You can use any magazines, any newspaper, and it's just layering down and covering the entire page with paper. Fabric collage is the same thing, except with fabric instead. And I think it does look cool if you lay down fabric and then embroider on top of it, and it kind of gives it an quilted appearance. So that is visual journaling in a nutshell. So, well, on this page, I'm going to attach videos of people going through their visual journals. It is very open to what you do. It doesn't need to be related to any of this at all, but it could. So if I click on the Pinterest board, you might get a little bit better idea of what it could be. If it'll load. Yeah, 219 pins. I think you have a lot of options there. So it's like they laid down for this one, it's probably acrylic or watercolor paint, and then they used paint markers on top of that, and then they added text on top of that, and they just kept on layering and layering and layering until it was a finally finished work of art. So it's going to be like a less committal work of art, but I think it ends up looking cooler. And it's just a way to fill up your sketchbook a little bit more, and I think it's fun to kind of play and mess around with other materials. So there are a lot of different options for you to go through here. What I am grading on is, let's see, this is the rubric. So this is going to be like what page you chose to submit. This is what I'll grade you on. So does it represent at least one theme? Did you use at least one method of visual journaling? Did you create a project that was original and creative? Did you put effort into it? And did you use proper craftsmanship? So it's pretty simple guidelines for you to follow. So you should all do really well on this. So I'm expecting 2 visual journals a week, probably not this week because it's a little weird with testing and a day off. So I'd like at least 1 this week, but from then on, it'd be like 2 a week. Yeah, so are there any questions on that? No? Cool. So if you're done with the mural, you're going to begin visual journaling.